Many salutations to viewers and coins of the vault alike. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this chapter and part. Don't forget to check out the description below for the open casting call that I will be holding for the duration of this story. In it, there will be a list of characters as well as a few lines that you can use for auditions. Some of these characters will have one-time appearances, others will be making appearances throughout the story and have yet to have a voice behind them. But we'll see. So until next time, my friends. Sly Cooper, Rise of Vexen. Chapter 2, Part 3. Once inside the safe house, Bentley came over and began assessing Adora's wound.
I should have made you stay put while I set up the equipment.
Bentley sighed as he wrapped her leg once he was sure that the bullet was no longer in her flesh.
There was no way to know that something like this was going to happen, Bentley.
Vexen comforted.
There is always a way to plan for something like this, Vexen. Things like this happen when you run in without a plan.
That's why you always must be flexible, Inspector,
a voice said as a looming shadow walked into the room. Vexen brushed her hand against her thigh, while Adora jumped up and took a fighting stance.
Easy, Blassreiter. I'm here to help,
the voice said, coming into the light and revealing Ivan holding his hands up.
Meister Ryu, it is good to see you again.
Adora smiled shyly, sitting down once more.
Ivan, what are you doing here?
Vexen demanded, relaxing her stance. Ivan put his hand down and into the pocket of his black jacket.
Not long after you left my home, Darius Hunter came and paid me a visit, asking if I had seen you. He was especially interested in your friends, Murray and Bentley. I tried to get here before he did to warn you that he was on your trail, but it looks like he beat me to it.
Ivan sighed, motioning towards Adora's leg.
I was sure I scrubbed everything and left no trail as to where we were going from Egypt,
Bentley said, going back to his laptop to check the encryption codes on his routers and portable mainframe in the van. Ivan shook his head.
I don't think your normal methods are going to work, Bentley. I did some checking on this Agent Hunter. Apparently, he has 4 degrees in computer science and programming. It would take 3 of Bentley to slow him down.
What would he be doing near Damascus Steel?
Vexen asked, thinking about what she saw in the records for Adora's father and what she heard Leon and Duchess talking about.
I do not know, but if we're to get any answers, we need to get Vater back,
Adora stated, wincing a bit as the adrenaline began to wear off and the pain in her leg built. Ivan raised an eyebrow when his eyes happened upon the note that Vexen had brought with her resting on a nearby table.
Where did you get that note?
Ivan asked, picking it up and looking over the writing.
It's the only clue I've found leading us to Adora's father,
Vexen said. Ivan handed the note to Bentley, who began hacking into a surveillance satellite in the area to map out where they were. He was jacked in and zooming into the city within a few minutes before announcing his plan.
All right, I have most of the city's layout, but I can't get the finer details. Some troops appear to be near the facility on the north end. Vexen will take some surveillance photos of that factory. Ivan, since you're here, you and Murray will be scouting soldier movements and shift changes. Adora and I will be watching you from the satellite.
That sounds good to me,
Ivan chimed.
I've also been running scans of the area for anything related to the time machine, and have been picking up some faint readings. Incidentally, they are coming from the same building where Adora's father is supposed to be. Vexen, I've uploaded the signal to your shade scanner. See if you can find what's giving off the signal while you're out there.
With the plan given, the group was readying to leave when Ivan noticed the hesitation in Vexen's face.
What's the matter, Inspector?
He asked, putting a hand on her back for reassurance.
Is what I'm doing right?
She questioned. Bentley and Murray stopped their preparations and looked back at her, the entire room becoming thick with silence.
This was your choice, was it not, Vexen?
Adora snapped, sitting down in a chair next to Bentley.
Yes, but
Is life on the run not what you were hoping for?
that's not it.
Then what is it? Why are you hesitating like this?
Adora drilled until Ivan faced her and put his hand out to stop her malicious questions.
When I started all of this, I just wanted to get Sly back. My rap sheet has become so long that even a deal with the FBI wouldn't be enough. I just feel I'm sacrificing too much of myself.
Vexen lowered her gaze to her ring and hugged herself as the war within her mind raged. Ivan sighed and sat down beside her, folding his legs over one another and patting his knee.
Come, sit, malenka tetina,
Ivan said with a smile in his voice. Vexen looked at him with questions in her eyes, but sat on his knee as Ivan put a hand on her shoulder once more.
When the caterpillar goes into its cocoon and comes out again, do you think that is an easy journey?
He asked. Vexen slowly shook her head.
It is not. But who the caterpillar was before it went into that cocoon, and who it is when it comes out as a butterfly, never changes. You too are going through a transformation. I know you must be at war with yourself between your former life and your current one.
Ivan held out a finger, touching the tip of his claw to her chest.
But who you are in here is what will never change. You are still that hot-headed, justice-loving fox we all know from yesterday to tomorrow. You will just be using those same tools for a different line of work. You aren't giving up anything, Inspector. You are who you are.
Vexen let the words sink in and thought back to when she and the Cooper gang had gone to the Old West. It was there that she realized she and Sly fought for justice, just on opposite sides of the law. Now, she was still fighting for that same justice, only not in her usual capacity.
Does that give you some clarity?
Vexen nodded and stood with a huff. Everything in her being screamed that what she was about to do was very wrong. Breaking and entering, vandalism, and even theft. But it was all to get Sly back, and Vexen hoped in the back of her mind that Sly would take her with him once they were reunited. Slipping on her shades and grabbing the camera Bentley held out to her, she scampered to the roof, disappearing into the night. Ivan and Murray secured their supplies and headed out, watching every corner for signs of soldiers that would hamper their scouting. As Vexen jumped from rooftop to rooftop, she would sometimes stop and hide in the shadows when a searchlight passed her way. Once she was sure the beam had gone by, she began running for the next bit of cover.
Vexen, see what you can do about those searchlights. They're making it difficult for Murray and Ivan to move around.
Vexen huffed, knowing that her photos would take longer to get, but their part was just as important. She climbed a guard tower with a silent leap, kicking the guard unconscious and ripping the power cord from the switch. As soon as the light shut off, the guard's radio crackled with an angry-sounding voice, and another spotlight wheeled in her direction. Vexen grit her teeth, hiding behind the casing and keeping still, hoping the light would simply just go away. But as the minutes dragged on, she could hear other voices on the radio, and it sounded like the guards were coming her way, footsteps on the metal ladder pounding upwards. Shutting her eyes, she wondered if her adventure was going to end just as it had begun, with her no closer to finding Sly, when a thought struck her.
Wait, what about that night walk trick that Ivan taught me during his training?
With only a few moments to spare, Vexen crouched, then shot into the dark, plummeting to the ground as the guard entered the tower. She tumbled for cover behind a chimney as she landed, peeking over the top to better see where her next target was. Vexen darted through the shadows with her nightwalk, her form appearing as a blur if she had to cross the beams of light. The second, third, and fourth tower lights were broken, and the guards were knocked out within a few more minutes.
What took you so long?
Ivan barked.
Guards, there were a few more than I thought.
Vexen answered, catching her breath, then heading out for the front of the factory. She clicked off a few photos, being sure to see the security measures, then searching for the time machine signal once she was done. With all the patrolling guards, it took longer to zero in on the signal's general location. But just as Bentley said, it was indeed coming from the building where Adora's father was supposedly being kept.
If my scans are correct, and they usually are, this signal looks like it's coming from the dark matter flow regulator. What would that be doing here?
Bentley asked to no one, summoning Vexen back to the hideout. As she was readying to leave, Vexen heard a shout of commands in German coming towards her.
Vexen, Murray, Master, you need to get back to base now. A battalion of soldiers is headed your way. Something tipped them off. Move, move, move!
Adora hissed over the comm. Vexen reached for her shock pistol, ready to take them all on, but froze when her hand missed it. She remembered what happened when she tried to stand up to Agent Hunter, resulting in Adora's injury. A whole battalion would be more than she could take head-on. With a huff, she turned and ran for the hideout instead, circling the building to shake any possible tails, one of the most prominent lessons Ivan had taught her.
Alright, I've analyzed Vexen's pictures as well as the guard rotation patterns. Now that we're all here, I'll start with the plan. I call it Operation Metalhead.
Bentley announced, wheeling over to a more open space as a holographic projection popped up.
For this to work properly, we'll need well-timed precision on all fronts. The guards move in a grid-like pattern, starting from east to west, then north to south. We'll have to use the streets instead of the rooftops. They've doubled the number of lights, so the building's shadows will be crucial. Contact will be minimized if we start our moves at midnight, just after the guard change. Be careful not to get into a fight with them at all costs. These guys aren't playing around with their assault rifles.
Bentley warned, pulling up a picture of the rifle being used.
Once we get moving, there won't be much time to turn back. I caught a radio transmission from Darius Hunter while you were taking pictures, and he's called in additional agents. They should be here about 10 minutes after midnight, and if we aren't in position before that happens, we'll be in a tight squeeze to do anything.
Vexen sighed as she looked over the plan.
That doesn't leave a lot of room for air, Bentley.
Bentley slyly smirked and flicked the brim of his hat.
Oh, ye of little faith, Vexen! Murray will head to the far side of town to cause a major distraction should we need it. Vexen, once inside the building, I'll be here monitoring your progress through the security system of the factory and help you navigate. You'll need to head to the West Wing, which, according to my scans, should be Wing 4, where Adora's father is being held. Once you find him, you should be able to escape the same way you came, with her father in tow. That's also where the dark matter flow regulator should be as well.
Ivan raised an eyebrow and crossed his arms.
This all sounds a bit too easy, Bentley. Are you sure you've thought of everything?
He asked.
I wish I had more time, but with Darius Hunter bearing down on us, this is the best I can do on such short notice. We have to move with what we know.
Bentley answered, disappointment in his voice.
I'll be sure to run interference if you need it.
Ivan offered.
Thank you, Ivan. Now get your things ready. We move in 15 minutes. All right, final comms check. Ivan?
Zrozumieli, Bentley.
Murray?
The Murray is ready to go.
Adora?
Habe verstanden.
Vexen?
I copy, Bentley.
All right, the guard change is complete. Begin operation on my mark. Go!
Swiftly, Vexen trotted through the streets, occasionally pressing her back against the wall in a shadow as the searchlight would pass by. Tapping her shades revealed she was a few seconds ahead of their timetable, allowing her to find a hiding spot and wait for her proper cue.
I'm in position.
Murray radioed.
Good work, big guy.
Vexen whispered.
Vexen, wait for my signal. Go!
As Vexen was about to tumble across the road, her shades pinged a bright red dot on the radar. She scrambled back into the shadow and calmed her breathing when 3 more red dots pinged on her radar.
Vexen, what is wrong? Why haven't you moved?
Adora asked. Vexen dared not speak as 2 armed guards walked past her, aiming their rifle-mounted light down the street before moving on. Carefully, Vexen peered around the wall she hid against to see a guard standing before her. Her mind raced through the training that Ivan had given her, but she couldn't remember how to take down an enemy silently. That is, if she ever had the lesson. She was about to attempt it on her own when a large shadow rushed past her. It grabbed the guard around the mouth and slammed the side of its hand into the guard's neck, knocking him out instantly. The shadow stood and walked over to where she was and knelt before her, revealing Ivan.
I'm sorry, Inspector, for not giving you the silent defeat lesson. I shall teach it to you once we have the time. Go, I'll watch from here,
Ivan commanded, watching as she silently jogged to the building, only to be stopped again by the locked door.
Drat!
She hissed, activating her mic.
Bentley, can you hack the lock on this door? It looks to be a keycard lock.
She said, looking around to ensure that no one was coming.
Sorry, Vexen. That lock is on a closed system. I have no way of getting to it without shutting down power to every factory. Maybe one of the guards has a key card,
Bentley suggested. Vexen sighed with a hiss. More pickpocketing? But without that card, there would be no way of getting into the building. Sneaking around the compound, she picked a few pockets of the guards and found a key card. But as she was walking back to the door, she heard a familiar voice laughing. Vexen jumped to a nearby balcony in a single leap to see the Spider-Woman from before, the Duchess. She swiped her own card and entered the building.
Now, why would she be going in there?
Vexen wondered. Making sure no one was watching, she jumped down and made her way to the door.
Vexen, where are you going? That's the wrong door!
Bentley shouted.
I'm following a lead. The building looks connected, so I should be fine.
She hissed back, swiping the card and ducking in before anyone could see her.
This isn't part of the plan!
Can it, Turtle? I'll figure it out. Now, which way is the west wing?
Silence followed for a few moments. Vexen could imagine Bentley madly searching through the building schematics for what she needed.
It's to the right.
Vexen took a breath to calm her nerves and began running through the building, stopping periodically in the shadows to avoid guards or listen to Bentley's instructions. When the shadows were too far apart to sneak through, she would use the nightwalk technique, flitting through the light as a blur. As she went further into the building, she began to hear screams and a rising fear coming over her.